A lot of different teams were fixed in the latest Illuvium PvP patch notes for patch 0.3.2. Now, there are some adjustments that I don't think necessarily make sense here. There are some that are really great, and there are some that I think didn't do enough, but I'm waiting to see how it pans out because so far it's actually felt pretty good when playing the game. Although it's interesting, certain things became really strong as other things got weakened. So we're going to go through the patch notes now. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, all of the most important details, and then we'll discuss what the meta kind of looks like right now and how things have changed. So firstly, when it comes to classes and composites, simply put, air got a pretty substantial nerf. The energy debuff going from 80 at the high end all the way down to 50 is insane. For anyone who doesn't know, air makes the first Omega cast for your opponent significantly harder to get. And it used to be 80% harder to get, and now it's 50% harder to get with 7 air. I had seen quite a few 7 air teams running around. I think this is actually a little bit too much of a nerf. Now things like Scion and Invoke are a lot stronger. Bringing it down to 60 might have made more sense, but that's okay. The dodge chance, bring it down a little bit. I feel like maybe this was a little bit too harsh, but I think it's mostly good. I think bringing down the dodge chance this much makes a lot of sense. Bringing it up a little bit in the future could be good as well. Empaths, their shields did not get brought down nearly enough. This is the interesting part. I thought air should have been brought down not as much, and empath should have been nerfed to hell. It should have just been nerfed into the ground. Empath's unusable. Delete all the empath alluvials. I don't really care. But the empath shield really didn't come down to substantial enough. The shield isn't really the problem. It's a lot of the other things and the way it stacks. The ally healing efficiency, bring this down, is good. And the empath healing efficiency, bring this down, is really good as well. Overall, a pretty good change. I definitely think they could have brought the shield down more. I don't think it was the biggest problem, but bringing it down more could have been good. Arcanite attack speed, bringing it down, did not bring it down quite enough. I think pretty good change overall though, and the attack speed duration by 1 second. I have seen the impacts of this. I think that was quite a good change. Maybe a little bit much, but it's quite a good change. Considering Phosphorus can cast so often, it's pretty much always got the attack speed buff up. So 4 is a good change here if you go for a... It means you can't go for a tanky Phosphorus as often anymore. Taipan line, the slash damage radius reduced by 2. Perfect change. I think that's exactly what it needed. You don't need to touch that anymore. The Terror Bird line energy cost up by 10. Also a really good change. I think you could probably increase it more and you would still not feel it too much. I think it's a good change though. All T0 alluvials, here's the interesting one. All T0 alluvials have had their max HP and resistances and attack damage reduced by 10%. Okay? Oh my god. I haven't felt the effects of this as much as I would have liked. Now, I felt it a little bit. I've spoken with people and they say a lot of little reductions equal one large change. I think we could definitely see T0s be reduced more in the future, but maybe it's the overall systems and the way that they benefit T0s and using T0s in your team that needs to be changed and overhauled rather than nerfing T0s themselves. But I definitely don't think this 10% reduced their usage as much as I would have liked to see. Augments, okay. So, they fixed the on-trigger thing. For anyone who doesn't know, it meant you could get the on-crit trigger very, very often, including on Scoriox splash damage. So, you could bring a Scoriox attack damage up to like 1,000 pretty easily. And many didn't know that on-crit actually occurs and can trigger from things like Wildfire, Thorns, and other things. And so, creating this cooldown means it's a lot harder to abuse. You can definitely build teams around it still, but you can't abuse it necessarily. It did the same to all the on-crit effects. Jagged Edge added a cooldown of 0.5 seconds to on-crit trigger to prevent various mechanics like damage over time, area of effect damage, and thorns from triggering the effects. I'm not sure this one was as necessary since it had an upper limit. You could only trigger this up to 30 times to get the maximum stacks. But at the same time, I think that's fine. The only problem now is you can only really max out in 15 seconds, which is still pretty good. Biogenetic Suppressor, reducing the healing and energy reduction for this is quite good. I am now seeing it become a little bit harder to hamper empaths with these augments, and a little bit harder to hamper energy gain with these augments. Maybe a little bit too hard. I think you either nerf empaths more, or you nerf these augments, and not both. I think there's an interesting middle ground here. I definitely think it's a little bit too harsh on this. Nerfing the Grit and Resolve and Fortification Catalyst seems weird. I never particularly thought these were that good, but other people might be using them a lot. I think this is a big nerf for them, but overall it's okay. Siphon Matrix, the attack speed slow. I definitely think this needed a nerf. Again, a little bit too extreme. And the energy drain. Again, the energy drain part of it in particular was really extreme. I don't think you needed to go that far. But the change with one augment and things like that should fix a lot of this on its own. This one I don't agree with. The crit chance should have stayed at 60. The pure damage should have stayed at 60. Just because they're used a lot doesn't make them particularly good. And I definitely don't think this should have been reduced from 60 to 52. I just don't think so. For anyone who doesn't know, pure damage goes through resistances, Grit and Resolve, and all those sorts of things. And so the stage 3 version had 60 pure damage you can add to an alluvial. But it being brought down to 52, I think has done a lot more harm than good. It's really, really hard to break Colossus now, and it's making Colossus stronger when Colossus didn't see any nerfs in line with this sort of stuff. Charge capacitor energy gain. This one was quite interesting. It makes it harder to get Ramfire to cast off the bat. I think this is a good change, maybe a little bit too extreme. Overall, a good change. Synaptic Booster, boosting attack speed. I did not realize this got a buff. I had not noticed that. I'm going to be using this more often. Oh, this is because of the stacking attack speed thing. I did notice that, sorry. Yeah, so they removed the stacking attack speed behavior. For anyone who didn't know, the Synaptic Booster had a really weird bug where you could get 40% attack speed on assist, right? Assist, takedown, whatever you want to call it. And then if you got another assist shortly after that, it would reset the first buff and then add a buff on top. And so you could go to like 1 billion attack speed pretty easily. But they removed that. When it resets on taking another assist, it doesn't actually stack with the previous one. And so you're only able to max out at 44% from this, which just makes other attack speed buffs better. I would have liked an interesting system where maybe the duration was a little bit less and things like that. But anyways, there's a lot of other bug fixes, anything crazy. They fixed a bug on Magma Synergy, so now a zone is destroyed when the unit faints. I did not know that was the original intent. This one's really interesting. They also stopped attack speed values from exceeding the 250 cap, which I think is overall a very good change. And yeah, there's nothing else crazy here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something about the patches. There's a lot more changes to come, I think. I think that's the big takeaway here, is some of these are good, some of these are not so great. I'm looking forward to different changes coming instead. But I think mostly they're pretty good. I think T-Zeros need a bigger nerf. Empaths definitely need a bigger nerf. And Arcanite, the Arcanite nerfs were really good. The Taipan Terrorbird nerfs were really, really good. And some of the augments got a little bit overtuned. I don't think they need to get nerfed that hard. And when we go down to the one augment system, they're going to need a buff again. So the augments got nerfed a little bit too hard. Arcanite, everything got nerfed just right. And Air got overtuned for sure. And Empath did not get tuned enough. Nerf them into the ground. Make sure they're unusable. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day.